32. VA. 32. VA. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a beautiful day for a bill signing, isn't it? Yes. Yes. My name is Rochelle Palacci, and I am the Vice President for 32 VJ in Connecticut. 32 VJ. We're very excited to share our space with our allies, elected officials, and our brothers and sisters in labor today as we sign this important legislation into law. As I'm sure everyone knows, it's never been more important to band together and support laws that ensure workers are in the best place possible to succeed. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Especially during this time when workers are experiencing peak exploitation from the top down. It's up to us to put legislation in place that provides workers with the necessary guardrails to ensure their protection. And this bill, an act concerning workforce development and working conditions in the state, does exactly that. This comprehensive bill features several key provisions that will strengthen workers' rights, empower them, and enforce regulations across various industries. Notably, it will include a landmark section to provide service employees with worker retention protections, something seen in other states like California, Delaware, and New Jersey. Whereas previously, workers had no legal protections to keep their positions if their building is sold or new management comes in. This bill will ensure that incoming building service contractors or other new employers are required to retain a building's existing workforce for 90 days. This is a game changer for us. Absolutely. What exactly does this mean? Workers will not be pushed out of their roles, lose their benefits, and/or lose their livelihoods simply because of a new building contractor. I cannot begin to express the impact this will have on our members at 32 BJ. We have heard and seen tremendous suffering from workers whose jobs were lost due to change in management with little to no notice. With such a new law in place, this provides us with the tools and, most importantly, the time necessary to fight back so we can protect our workers and make sure that they're able to keep their jobs and benefits. We couldn't have reached this important point without ample support of our legislature, House and Senate leadership, our chairs of the Labor Committee, our community, and labor allies who stuck with us and worked with us for months to get this bill through. And we're so proud to stand by leaders such as Governor Lamont, who ensures Connecticut's a shining example to the country for workers' rights. I look forward to this bill being signed into law today and working together to ensure that Connecticut continues to lead by example. Thank you.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out for this really important legislation. And it is not every bill that attracts just about every labor leader across our labor movement, but also the incredible legislators who worked so hard to support this legislation. And so I want to start with a thank you to our Labor Committee co-chairs, Senator Julie Kushner and Representative not an exaggeration to say that they stood for hours defending the bill and explaining the myriad of important provisions, which is why we are all here. And to our labor leaders with us every day, Thank you for your leadership and everything that you do to protect our working families. So a round of applause for our leaders. Because we are here with teachers union, building trades, service unions, public employees, the myriad of people that stand up for our families across the state. And a special thank you to our governor. He has made sure that Connecticut is on the map, leading in the labor movement at every step of the way, and we so appreciate that. Our state has one of the highest minimum wages in the country at almost $17 an hour. We were the first to establish a landmark paid leave program. We expanded paid sick days, and most recently we signed the Warehouse Worker Protection Bill as well. We have been at the forefront of protecting workers who are unfortunately being attacked all across the country and even by our federal administration. And that's why we are proud to stand up for working families with this legislation. So we applaud all of your commitment. The leaders in this room are going to talk about some of the details of this legislation, but I think it's really important to hit a few of the highlights. Importantly, this is going to address critical wage theft in the building trades by making a contractor jointly and severably liable for any unpaid wages to a subcontractor's employee. It's going to give 100% workers' compensation to teachers and healthcare providers that are assaulted on the job. This is amazing. It's going to ensure that breastfeeding women will get a reasonable break time for feeding or pumping, and it's going to establish current wage disclosure. It's going to expand current wage disclosure laws to require an employer to include information about benefits such as health insurance and paid leave as well, because you can't take advantage of your benefits unless you know exactly what they are. These are really important basic protections that will make work just a little bit better for our families. And I'm so proud to stand here with all of you to support this legislation. And so, with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce the leader of the Connecticut AFL-CIO, Ed Hawthorne.
Good afternoon, everyone. As the Lieutenant Governor said, my name is Ed Hawthorne. I'm proud to serve as the president of the Connecticut AFL-CIO, a federation of unions representing approximately 250,000 working people here in the great state of Connecticut. Today is a proud day for Connecticut's working families. With the signing of House Bill 5003, we are affirming a simple but powerful truth. When our workers are respected, protected, and fairly compensated, the entire state of Connecticut grows stronger. We often call the state capitol the people's house, but those aren't just words, they are a mandate. The bills we pass in that building are meant to make people's lives better, and today we are delivering on that promise. This legislation is one of the most significant advancements for workers' rights in recent memory. It isn't just one policy. It is a comprehensive shield for the people who keep our state running. This bill ensures fairness in our paychecks by establishing a minimum wage for cannabis workers and by requiring wage transparency in job postings so workers know their worth when they're walking into the room. This bill ensures security in the workplace. It protects jobs by requiring new contractors to retain existing service workers for at least 90 days. It expands workers' compensation to include portal-to-portal coverage for our public works employees and provides enhanced benefits for teachers and healthcare workers who face the unthinkable, being assaulted while on the job. And this bill honors those who serve our communities. We are waiving tuition at CT State and CT Community Colleges for our police, firefighters, and EMS personnel. We are ensuring that our families of our correction officers and investigators who pay the ultimate price and are killed in the line of duty receive benefits they deserve through a fallen hero fund. And we are even addressing community safety by streamlining the removal of those dangerous double utility poles that we see every single day. These are practical, meaningful changes. They aren't just line items in the bill, they are a lifeline for families from Danbury to New London. I want to recognize the leaders who fought to get this across the finish line. Once again, round of applause for Senator Kushner and Representative Sanchez. Along with Senate and House leadership, ensuring that these voices were heard during a short session, and all the members of the Labor Committee, I know a lot of them are here, and also for Governor Lamont for his signature today. Your commitment to dignity at work reflects the very best of public service. Today we are sending a clear message. Connecticut stands with its workers. We value your labor. We honor your sacrifice, and we will never stop building a state where every worker has the opportunity to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now we'll hear from Miguel Fuentes, who is representing Carpenters Local 236.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. You've heard a lot about what this bill entails, and yes, it's a very big bill. But this legislature, this governor, lieutenant governor, has the wherewithal and the courage to do big things. And for anyone who's out there who's listening, you see a bunch of labor leaders here, but if you toil with your body or mind, you work every day for a living and try to take care of your family, this bill's for you too, whether you're a member of a union or not. Because the backbone of this country, the backbone of the state of Connecticut, are the men and women that keep it going. We build the things where things happen, but you keep it happening. So, for all of you, from all of us, we're here for you, they're here for you, and they got it done. I'm extremely proud of Julie Kushner, Manny Sanchez, our governor, and everyone who caught a lot of flack. But you know what? Did the right thing, because they know that at a time when things are so expensive, when turning on the lights costs so much money, you don't know what a gallon of gas is going to cost you, at least somebody got your back when you're going to work every day to make sure you got what you need. And for that, I thank you.
Thank you. And representing thousands of teachers across Connecticut, the president of Connecticut Education Association, Kate Tice.
Good afternoon. It is a distinct pleasure to stand here among labor leaders, among legislative leaders, to stand in power of workers. I think this bill doesn't just help us, it really firmly stamps that Connecticut is where you want to be. Connecticut has the wherewithal to protect working people. And I don't know about the rest of my labor partners, but I suspect many of you faced a lot of the same pushback we did with our portion of this bill, where we had to claw the language to the finish line. These are not simple, easy wins. I've called all of you at least 37 times in the last week of the session. So this is not just something that happens because of goodwill. It is not something that happens because we know it is right. It is because the unions fight for their people. It is because we make incredible amount of phone calls. We stand together, we fight for the fact that working people in this state deserve good wages. They deserve to be protected. My fellow colleagues in nursing, we were getting a discounted workers' compensation because of who we work with. Predominantly female employees. So let's not forget that today is also an incredible victory for labor, but it is an incredible victory for women. Because this bill writes, yes it does. We had to right a very big wrong in workers' compensation when we discount women's injuries. And we had to absolutely correct the termination policy that affected predominantly women in education, where we didn't have the same rights as police and fire, male-dominated professions. We have to always remember that the fight is something we have to be vigilant and focused on. And when it was clear that there was waffling on our language, when we pointed out this was not just a labor issue, this was a gender equity issue, it was interesting to watch how people said, oh, wait a minute, you're right. So I would say to all of you women workers, do not be afraid to point out what you want, what you need, because this legislation demonstrates we can win, and we should, because this is our work. This is the place that we can win in this state of Connecticut. And I am so grateful that while we had to fight hard, friends, that is for sure, but we did win. And today is a good day. And I am so grateful to the leadership of Julie, Manny, the governor, all of our friends here who fought with us. It's with a great sigh of relief that my teachers go back to work, knowing that if they are faced with unfair termination that might come at them, by the way, just simply because they don't agree with their employer, because that happens, we now have a fair path to fight back and hold our management accountable. So for that, it is with incredible gratitude on behalf of our members that I say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for pointing out the gender equity aspect of this bill, because the provisions you mentioned, along with requiring employers to give salary ranges, is a major step forward, because heretofore women have been disadvantaged because they already start at a lower pay level. So that is another really important step forward in this legislation. So next we will hear from John Brady, who is Vice President of AFT Connecticut, representing nurses and so many more fabulous employees. John Brady.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. AFT Connecticut represents about 34,000 members in education, healthcare, and public service. I'm proud to be the Executive Vice President. Every once in a while I have this dream. It's about an incident that happened about 30 years ago when I was still a tech, not a nurse yet, working in the emergency room. And my job this one day was to watch this psychiatric patient who was in a locked room, and I was watching through a camera. He was laying on the stretcher and he had his back to the camera, so I couldn't really see what he was doing with his hands. But at one point he jumped up and he had made a noose out of his bed sheet, and he had tied it to the edge of the stretcher and put it around his neck, and he was laying himself on the floor to tighten the noose. I yelled for help, and I ran into the room and I got it off his neck. And at that point he got up, stood up, and he was a huge guy, and he got me in a headlock. Thankfully, security was there quickly, and I was not physically hurt. But those assaults are so common that my treatment for the day after that happened was I was given enough time to have a cup of coffee before I went back to work. That wasn't physically hurt, but I still dream about that occasionally 30 years later. This bill provides full wage replacement to any education employee or healthcare employee who is assaulted in the line of duty. It's the least we can do, but it is not the best we can do. We shouldn't need law on things like workplace violence or safe staffing or captive audience, and yet we do. We do because not enough employers do the right thing without being forced, and the only way to force them is through our collective voices. We will never solve workplace shortages until we improve workplace conditions. So I want to thank everybody that worked on this bill, all the people up here and many, many more. It takes several steps to improve workplace conditions, and there are many more steps that we need to take, especially around staffing and workplace violence. But let us go forward guided by one fundamental principle: work shouldn't hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the Executive Director of the Connecticut State Building Trades, the shy, quiet, and retiring Joe Toner.
I got good news. I took my medicine this morning, so we might be toned down a little bit. My wife put it out on the counter for me. But on behalf of the 30,000 hardworking men and women in the unionized construction industry, we want to thank Senator Kushner, Representative Sanchez, members of the Labor Committee, and all the legislators that voted in favor of this bill. Ultimately, we appreciate the signage by Governor Lamont. So for us, it's important for us to keep moving our people forward. And I think in the construction industry, as Brother Miguel mentioned earlier, the theft is unbelievable. I mean, people are being exploited day in and day out. So we support, the wage theft piece of it, from our first cousins to carpenters. We work very closely with them. We make sure that all workers on projects are made whole. A couple pieces in the bill that are pertinent for us in the building trades is making sure that daily logs are required on every publicly funded project. And that's important for a few reasons. A, we have to make sure our people go home every night, right? We know as bad as that clean energy tragedy was, for a few days we didn't know who was on the project and who wasn't on the project. So it actually is a worker safety issue, and also holds the contractors and the CMs more accountable to making sure that the people on the project are signed in and recognized correctly. The second piece I think is important also is the operating engineers piece, Local 478 on the crane safety. They did a great job. Kimberly Glassman, Nate Brown are here today. There was a law that was on the books where if somebody was operating a crane that didn't have a license, you could just tell them to stop, but there was no teeth in it to make sure that the folks operating the crane were going to come back and have a license. So it makes sure that the license are there. It makes sure that the work is stopped. If you think about driving home every night on the highways and you see all this work that's happening, 90% of that work is done by our members. And can you imagine on one of these projects if somebody didn't have a license for a crane and that boom is hanging over the highway or the roadway that you're working on? Can you imagine an inspector stopping by and saying, hey, listen, you don't have the license, you got to stop running this crane, and it has no teeth to stop that person from running that crane? That's not only a problem for the folks on the project, but for public safety also. So we appreciate that. And the third piece is there was a loophole on making sure that all workers are made accountable or are made whole on prevailing wage rate projects. So we want to make sure all our workers that are working on prevailing wage rate projects are paid a livable wage in a very expensive state, in a very expensive country, in a very expensive time, right? So we appreciate it. Thank you for the leadership. Julie, as always, you're a true champion, not only for the labor people here today, but anyone in the state of Connecticut. I truly mean that. As you know, as well as we do in the labor movement, and we lift it up for our folks, everyone comes along with us. So on behalf of the building trades, we want to personally thank you and Manny and for your steadfast leadership and what you do for us every day.
Joe, that was an excellent segue to our next speaker, who since 2019, when the governor and I first took office, we have been fighting for working people, and you have been leading the way, the fabulous Senator Julie Kushner.
Serve as the Labor Senate Chair. But I want to say, I was thinking while everyone was speaking about something that you might not have mentioned, something that maybe wasn't as noticed, and you really covered pretty much everything. Maybe not the lobsters, but but it is about all of you in the room, all of the working men and women in this room who worked so hard and fought so hard to get this bill done. But it's also about our communities, because when you have wage theft, and I know, Matt, you taught me this very well, when you have wage theft, the whole state suffers. The lost taxes are incredible. The lost payments into workers' comp are incredible. And so there's so much out there in this bill that really affects the whole community. And I was thinking, John, you mentioned state staffing, but you know, this is a really tiny paragraph in the bill, but it's so important. We've had trouble enforcing the law that we passed a few years ago to make sure we had safe staffing. And DPH is having trouble, the Department of Public Health. And so we actually added in there quarterly reporting that will actually address the question, I think, more directly. And then we can learn from that what is happening in our hospitals. And that it's not just about burning out nurses and techs, which is really, really important. But I know from my own experience, when you're in the hospital with a loved one, you really have to be there all the time because there's no one there so much of the time when the staffing ratios are bad. And so this is really about, as was said, it's really about all of Connecticut. It's been an honor to be the Senate Chair of the Labor Committee, but it's really been an honor to serve with Manny Sanchez. Representative Sanchez worked so hard on this bill. He studied it. He worked every day, night and day, with Vice Chair Durrell Wilson over there. And really, you all did an amazing. I was a little jealous it was a House bill because, you know, I loved the idea of an aircraft carrier for labor. We had never done one in the years that I had been there, and I'm not sure we could have gotten it from the Senate to the House, but it was brilliant to get it from the House because we had no trouble with it in the Senate. And it really was an incredible experience to work with you on this, and obviously the Vice Chair from the Senate, Senator Cabrera is here, and I see Senator Lesser is here too. We have a very small but strong, mighty team from the Senate that are on the Labor Committee. But most of all, you know, having Governor Lamont and our Lieutenant Governor, I like to call her Madam President, but our Lieutenant Governor at the helm signing this important piece of legislation was critical. We couldn't have done it without really all three branches here. I don't know if we call ourselves the branch. Are we 3 branches or 2 branches? But whatever we are, having the Senate, the House, and the Governor was really, really, really important here. But I think the final thank you goes to all of you. Because when Kate said you had to make 37 calls to everybody, all of you did that. The number of you in this room that worked on this, from the leadership to all of the staff to the members that were there, reminding us every day how important this bill is. Every section of this bill is important, and there's 76 sessions, just to repeal something, the 75 important sections of this bill. Every single one of them was important, and they all happened because of you. And everything that we do, it's never just about the leaders, it's always about all of us together. And so I really feel like I don't want to give up this mic until we do one more thing, and that is, we tried to do this in the Senate that night, and then we got in trouble. When we fight, we win! When we fight, we win! When we fight, we win! Woo!
And it's my pleasure to introduce another leader from our Labor Committee, State Senator George Cabrera. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody, this schedule is great, Lieutenant Governor. There's only one mistake. I have to follow Julie Kushner. So that's not good. But I just want to echo what everyone has said here. I won't go through the bill. You all know it. It is an important bill that touches so many aspects of our state here in Connecticut and our country. And it was said earlier, I'll say it again, we make Connecticut, we make this country run every single day. And at a time when workers are under assault, when collective bargaining rights are under immense attack at the federal government here in Connecticut because of the leadership of this Labor Committee, this legislature, our governor and lieutenant governor, we are standing up and saying no. We stand with working men and women all across the state. That's why this bill is so critical and so important. And I know, because I see it every day, that every single person here on the committee and the executive cares about workers, and we have got a difficult 6 months ahead, but make no mistake about it. This is what happens when all of us stand up together. Every single time you make a phone call or send a text or knock on a door or show up to a rally or talk to your family, your friends, your neighbors, this is what happens. And so it's all of us, regardless of where we stand, whether we're in the legislature or in a union or on the street or at home, it doesn't matter. All of us, in our own way, contribute to the success we're celebrating here today. So let's go fight, let's go win. Si se puede. Yes, we can.
All right, so speaking of tenacity, I think immediately of State Representative Manny Sanchez, who's been a tenacious leader and fighter for this legislation.
Thank you. What a day it is, and thank you to everyone who is here today. Thank you, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, for all your support. I'd like to take this opportunity to give a special thanks to everyone who helped shape and move House Bill 5003 across the finish line. You all played a significant role in this historic workforce development bill. Senator Kushner, thank you so much for your hard work and dedication, seriously, and to Representative Wilson for your work and those long days and nights and weekends that we spent trying to navigate this space. And thank you to Speaker Ritter for trusting us with such important legislation. And thank you all of you that are here, for your hard work and dedication on this monumental legislation. At its core, House Bill 5003 is about dignity. It's about safety and fairness for workers across our state. This historic workforce development legislation strengthens protections for people on the job, making sure no one has to face unsafe conditions or go without support if they are subject to harm or mistreatment at work. It brings fairness and transparency to the workplace by cracking down on unjust practices and making sure workers understand their pay and opportunities. It invests in people, expanding training, opening doors to good jobs, and connecting workers to real opportunities that match today's economy. And it supports those who serve our communities, ensuring that they have access to resources, education, and pathways they need to succeed. What we have before us today, it is something that will lend a helping hand to the people who have served our country, our state, and communities with valor, distinction, and selflessness. This isn't symbolic, folks. It's a real step toward building a stronger, fairer economy that works for everyone. Today, we meet that moment. Thank you.
And to round out the leadership of our Labor Committee, State Representative Darrell Wilson.
Good afternoon. I think, most has been said, but, the one thing I will say is when we talk about affordability in this state, this bill is the epitome of it. When we cheat our workers because they have a little less, that's what we're talking about when we say affordability. And so when individuals are able to put a full meal on the table, not worry about their bills not being paid, not worried about where they're going to be made whole, this is what we're talking about with affordability. And so it has been a pleasure to watch individuals pour into 5003. But the other part that I will say is this is about retraining, providing some of our most vulnerable with opportunities for career paths. Whether you are trying to become a CNA or you are EMS, fire, police, you have finished your career, you have given your service, and you want to continue to give back. This gives opportunities for us to continue to allow families to be affordable here in the state of Connecticut, but most importantly, know that they are being made whole year-round for no matter what their situation is. And so I am proud to be a part of the leadership and work closely with Senator Kushner and Representative Sanchez and Senator Rivera on such monumental legislation that will continue to allow our families to be made whole. So thank you. Thank you.
And our final speaker, before we have him sign the bill, our fearless leader, Governor Lamont.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, my phone was ringing off the hook. I'll be blunt. I heard a lot of those calls you talked about, Kate. They said, oh, the bill is so long. It's all about respect and dignity for the folks who do the work in this state. Maybe the bill wasn't long enough. Maybe we should stand up every day and fight for the people who are doing that work. And those are our teachers, and those are our nurses, and those are our firefighters, and make it a little easier to recruit police as well. That's what this bill is all about, and that's what I look over the folks here have helped get this thing done. And I want to say something else. George mentioned, labor rights are under assault in this country by you-know-who. Not here in Connecticut. We're standing up for the right to organize. I think you see from the people in this room how important it is, how it makes a difference in your lives. George, we have more people now with union representation than we had before. How about the service workers? We have took us a while. We got that done. And the folks at Bradley Airport, and the folks at Cannabis, making sure that they have people like you representing them, fighting for you every day. Look, I hear the parade of horribles. I get it from the lobbyists. They call me, oh my God, you raised the minimum wage. You're going to drive the economy into the ditch. We raised the minimum wage from about $10 to about $17. We went from going one of the slowest growing economies in the country to one of the fastest growing economies in the country. Get off my back.
Yeah.
One other thing on a personal note, Joe Toner and the trades, they said, oh boy, this rule about holding the general contractor accountable. I mean, imagine what that would have done to your business, Governor. Yeah, I spent about 25 years building telecommunication systems. Of course you hold the general contractor responsible. That's what your job is as a general contractor. You can't have a bunch of subs paying slipshod under the counter wages. That doesn't work for anybody, and it is unfair to them, and it's also unfair to the other businesses who are doing it right. I want this enforced. I want to make sure we play by a level playing field. I want everybody playing by the same set of rules. I don't want to get beat by some person who cheats on the labor rates. That's why I hate this false dichotomy. Oh, Governor, this is pro-labor, pro-business. These are two sides of the same coin. You show respect for the people that do the work. Show that in terms of a lot of the rules we're putting in place right here. Great things are going to happen. That's why we're doing this bill today. Let's sign it. What do you say, Julie?
All our labor leaders and all our allies, and we're going to get a picture before the governor starts signing. So, man, right here, the governor right here, and okay. All right. All right. So, okay, everybody look straight ahead.
I got a few less clips.
We got a bunch of pens, so don't do it all at once. There you go. All right, where's Miguel?
Right behind you.
There you go.
Hey.
All right, excellent. Jody. Okay, there you go. All right, where's Kate? Right here. There you go. All right, okay.
Last pen?
Yeah. Okay, and Joe Toner.
I'm behind the big guy.
Okay, excellent. Going. We'll get this one to 32. Okay.
There you go.
I'll take it.